The worst break-ins aren't the ones where somebody breaks in. You'd hear that. A window, a door, glass. The worst ones are the houses where nobody had to break in at all, because he was already inside, and he had been for a while. Erin was 26, and the little house on Bellard Road was the first place that had ever been entirely hers. Rented, cheap, at the edge of a town that ran out into fields about 2 streets over. An old house, the kind that ticks and settles when the temperature drops, that has a draft you can never quite find. She told herself the quiet was the whole point. After the year she'd had, she wanted a place where nothing happened. For the first 3 weeks, nothing did. Almost. There were small things, the kind of things you explain away, because the explanation is so much easier than the truth. The milk went faster than it should have. She'd bought a carton on a Sunday and it was gone by Wednesday, and she didn't really drink milk. She figured she'd just used more than she thought. A phone charger she kept by the couch turned up in the kitchen one morning. She figured she'd moved it half asleep. One night she came home and the bathroom fan was running, that low rattle, and she was almost sure she'd turned it off that morning. Almost. She turned it off and didn't think about it again. And twice, just twice, she'd caught a smell in the hallway. Cigarette smoke, faint, stale. Erin didn't smoke. Old house, she told herself. Old smells coming up out of the walls when the heat kicked on. Every single one of those had an answer. That's the thing people don't understand about it afterward. Nothing screamed. Nothing was obviously wrong. It was just a house being a little bit off, in 100 small ways, over 3 weeks. You don't call the police because the milk's low. You just start, without quite noticing, leaving more lights on. It was a Tuesday when it stopped being small. She woke up at 3:10, not to a noise she could name, to the absence of one. That deep, held quiet a house gets in the middle of the night, when you wake up sure that something woke you, and you lie there with your heart going, waiting to hear it again. And she did hear it. Above her, the ceiling, a slow, careful shift of weight, the particular creak of someone moving who is trying very hard not to make the creak. Then nothing. Then it again, a few feet over, crossing the attic. Erin lay there and ran the list. Raccoon, a bird, branch on the roof, the house settling. She wanted it to be any of those so badly that she almost talked herself back to sleep. But raccoons don't pause. That was what she couldn't get past, lying there in the dark. The thing above her would move, and then stop, and then move again, like it was listening, like it was being careful about where it put its feet, because it knew exactly which boards were under it, and which one, right over the bed, would give her away. It knew the house better than she did. She did the brave, stupid human thing first. She reached over and turned on the lamp, as if light fixes anything, as if it would make the sound be a branch. The sound stopped, not faded, stopped. The instant the light went on. Whatever was up there had seen the glow come up through the attic hatch, and it was holding still now, because now it knew she was awake. That was the moment Erin understood she was not alone in her house. And that, on some level, she hadn't been for some time. In the hallway ceiling there was an attic hatch, a square panel you pushed up, with a little hook latch on the frame to hold it shut. Erin had never once touched it. 3 weeks. Never looked at it. She made herself go out into the hall, phone in her hand, and she looked up at it. The latch was undone. The panel sat a half-inch proud of the frame, tilted, like something heavy resting just on the other side. And out of that half-inch gap came the draft she'd never been able to find. Cold attic air. And, very faint, that stale cigarette smell. She didn't scream. She has said that's the part she's almost proud of. That she didn't scream, didn't freeze. She walked, fast and quiet, back to her room. And she got her keys. And she dialed 911 with her thumb already on the front door. The dispatcher was calm. Erin was whispering. She gave the address out on Bellard, and the woman's voice did the thing you never want to hear. A small pause, and then, "Okay, I want you to get outside if you safely can. Our closest unit is about 15 minutes out." 15 minutes. 2 streets from where the town ended. And then behind her, down the hall, she heard the latch, the soft wooden knock of that panel being lifted and set aside. Unhurried. He'd heard her on the phone. He knew help was 15 minutes away. And he was coming down anyway, taking his time about it, because 15 minutes, to a patient man, is plenty. Erin didn't wait to see him. She was out the front door and across the grass in her bare feet, and into her car. And she did the thing her mother had drilled into her years ago, without ever knowing why it would matter. She locked the doors first, before she even found the key. Then she got it into the ignition, and she did not drive to the end of the block. She drove to the gas station out on the highway, lit up white and ordinary and busy. And she sat under the lights with people around her, and she shook until the deputies called her back. They went through the house, and they found the attic. He'd been living in it. A camp roll pushed back under the low part of the eaves where the insulation was. Food wrappers, empty bottles, a spot worn into the dust where someone had sat for hours, many times. And the worst detail, the one the deputy didn't want to be the one to tell her. At the lip of the attic, right over the hall, a heating vent had been worked loose from its slats. From up there, lying flat, you could see straight down, into the hallway, to her bedroom door. He hadn't been hiding from her. He'd been watching her, from inside her own house, for 3 weeks. They never got him that night. He went out a gable vent and into the fields, and the dark took him, the way it does out there. No name. The camp roll and the bottles went to a lab, and Erin never heard another word about it. But here's the part that still keeps her up. A few weeks later, getting the last of her things, she finally talked to the landlord. Really talked. The way you don't until something's gone wrong. And she mentioned, careful, that she'd had a problem, that someone had been getting into the house, and the old man's face did something, and he said the last tenant had left in a hurry too. Mid-lease. Wouldn't say much. Just kept saying the same thing over and over, that he'd told her was nerves. A young woman alone letting an old house get to her. She'd kept saying she could never shake the feeling. That there was somebody in the house with her. So before you go to sleep tonight, and I mean this gently, it's worth knowing the sounds your house makes. All of them. The tick of the pipes, the settle of the floor, the draft you can never find. Because the night it matters, the only way you'll know that one of those sounds is wrong is if you already knew it was never there before. Lock your doors, even the ones up high.